Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, to our treasured time of digging into the spiritual gems from this week's Bible, reading June 29, July 5, 2026. Our reading in Jeremiah chapters 11 through 15 has taken us deep into the prophet's heart, and even deeper into the heart of Jehovah. These chapters are raw, honest, and at times unsettling. We hear Jeremiah's bold question, "Why is the way of wicked ones successful?" We witness a conspiracy against him from his own hometown. We see Jehovah's own heartbreak over a nation that has become like a roaring lion against him. And we discover the powerful lesson of the linen belt, a vivid reminder that Jehovah wants us close, adhering to him like a belt to the hips. As we share our gems today, let's allow these chapters to examine our own hearts. Are we open with Jehovah like Jeremiah? Do we trust his justice even when we don't understand? What gem from Jeremiah chapters 11 through 15 has Jehovah used to draw you closer to him? Let's begin. So let us begin. What do these verses reveal about Jeremiah's relationship with Jehovah? These verses reveal that Jeremiah enjoyed a relationship with Jehovah that was marked by remarkable intimacy, absolute honesty, and deep trust. It was not a distant, formal connection. It was the bond of a son speaking openly with his beloved father. First, notice how Jeremiah begins his complaint. "You are righteous, O Jehovah." Before he utters a single word of his confusion or pain, he anchors himself in the unchanging character of God. He does not question Jehovah's justice. He affirms it. This is the foundation of mature faith. Jeremiah's relationship was so secure that he could bring his hardest questions without fear of being rejected. He knew Jehovah well enough to know that his God was righteous, even when the circumstances seemed to tell a different story. A weaker relationship would have led to accusations or bitterness. Jeremiah's bond led him to honest inquiry. His complaint was not a legal charge against God. It was the heartfelt plea of a child who trusts his father's goodness but longs to understand his ways. Second, the very act of asking why reveals closeness, not distance. Jeremiah asks, "Why is the way of wicked ones successful, and why are the treacherous unworried?" Some might view such a question as impertinent, but Jehovah never rebukes him for it. Instead, Jehovah responds. This shows that a genuine relationship with God can accommodate our deepest struggles. Jeremiah did not pretend that everything made sense. He did not offer a superficial praise while burying his true feelings. He brought his confusion directly to the one who could resolve it. As the provided paragraph beautifully states, his forthrightness made it clear that he had a strong bond, much like that of a child with his beloved father. A child who trusts his father completely will ask hard questions. A child who fears rejection will hide them. Jeremiah asked because he trusted. Next question. What spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading would you like to share? Jeremiah 11:3 and 4. Jehovah here reminds his people of the very foundation of their relationship with him. He rescued them from the iron smelting furnace of Egypt, a place of intense heat designed to purify metal. But that deliverance was not unconditional. It was tied to a covenant, and at the heart of that covenant was a beautiful purpose. "You will become my people, and I will be your God." This was not a cold legal contract. It was an invitation to an intimate family bond. The curse fell not merely because rules were broken, but because a relationship was shattered. For us today, the lesson is profound. Our dedication and baptism created a similar bond. When we obey Jehovah's voice, we are not merely checking boxes on a list of requirements. We are protecting and nurturing the most precious relationship we have. Every act of obedience says, "I want to remain your person, and I want you to remain my God." When a command seems difficult, let us remember the iron-smelting furnace from which we were rescued, and let that gratitude deepen our love for His voice. Jeremiah 11:14. This is one of the most sobering commands Jehovah ever gave to a prophet. Jeremiah, the man known for his tears, is told to stop praying. The nation's rebellion had reached a point of no return. Jehovah, who delights in mercy, had exhausted every means of reaching their hearts. Now, the time for intercession was over. What does this teach us? First, it underscores the urgency of our preaching work. There is a window of opportunity for the people in our territory, and that window will not remain open indefinitely. Second, it reminds us never to abuse Jehovah's patience. We cannot live a double life, indulging in sin, and then expect our prayers to serve as a magical shield when calamity strikes. Jehovah is not mocked. His willingness to listen is connected to the sincerity of our heart. Third, this verse reveals Jeremiah's beautiful character. Jehovah had to command him not to pray, which means Jeremiah's natural instinct was to intercede, even for wicked people. Do we have that same loving instinct? Do we genuinely pray for those who have not yet come to know Jehovah, or have we written them off? Jeremiah's heart was a reflection of Jehovah's own heart, grieved but just. Jeremiah 11:19 and 20. Here Jeremiah reveals his own vulnerability and his unshakable trust in Jehovah's justice. He describes himself as a docile lamb, unaware of the murderous plot against him. His own townsmen from Anathoth wanted to silence him permanently, even plotting to erase his name. But notice what Jeremiah does. He does not seek revenge with his own hands. He does not organize a defense committee. Instead, he commits his legal case to the one who examines the innermost thoughts and the heart. Jeremiah knows that Jehovah sees what no human judge can see, and he trusts that perfect justice will be administered. This is a powerful model for us when we face betrayal, slander, or unjust treatment. The human impulse is to defend ourselves, to make sure everyone knows our side of the story, to strike back. But Jeremiah shows us a better way. We can open our heart to Jehovah, lay out the injustice, and then leave it entirely in His hands. He sees the innermost thoughts, not just of our enemies, but also of our own hearts, and in His perfect time, He will make things right. The phrase "committed my legal case" implies a complete transfer of responsibility. I am no longer the judge, I am the plaintiff who trusts the judge. Jeremiah 11:7 and 8. Jehovah highlights His own persistent patience through the phrase admonishing them again and again. The original language carries the idea of rising early to do something repeatedly. Jehovah did not warn them once and then abandon them. He sent prophet after prophet, warning after warning, opportunity after opportunity. The tragedy was not a lack of divine effort. It was a stubborn heart. They did not listen or incline their ear. Inclining the ear is a deliberate act, a turning of attention. They refused even to lean in and listen. And the root cause is stated clearly. Each kept stubbornly following his own wicked heart. The problem was internal, not external. Today, we are also admonished again and again through meetings, publications, and personal study. The question is, do we incline our ear? Do we lean in, eager to hear? Or have we allowed our own heart, perhaps a heart that wants to justify a certain course of action, to take the lead? The stubborn heart is a wicked heart, not because it is malicious, but because it places its own desires above Jehovah's voice. Let us incline our ear while the admonition is still being given. Jeremiah 11:10 and 11. This verse reveals a chilling pattern. They returned to the errors of their forefathers. Instead of learning from history, they repeated it. Their forefathers had suffered exile and disaster because of disobedience, yet the current generation ignored those lessons and walked the same path. This is a sobering warning about the danger of spiritual forgetfulness. How easily we can look at the mistakes of others in the past and think, that would never happen to me. But if we neglect personal study, if we stop examining our own heart, we may slowly drift into the very errors we once condemned. Notice also the finality of Jehovah's statement, a calamity that they will not be able to escape. When Jehovah's patience runs out, human ingenuity, political alliances, and false gods will offer no escape. There is only one true refuge, and that is a living, obedient relationship with Jehovah. For us, this emphasizes the importance of staying awake. We cannot live on borrowed spirituality, relying on the faith of our parents or our past record. We must have our own vibrant connection to God, today, right now, so that we never fall into the pattern of repeating past errors. Jeremiah 12:1 and 2. Jeremiah opens his heart with raw honesty. He begins where all genuine prayer must begin, acknowledging Jehovah's righteousness. He does not accuse God of injustice, he brings his confusion to a God he knows is just. This is the pattern of mature faith. It does not suppress hard questions, it brings them to the right person. Then, he asks the ancient question, why do the wicked prosper? He sees them flourishing like well-rooted trees, yet their connection to Jehovah is only on the surface. The chilling phrase, "You are on their lips," but far away from their innermost thoughts, describes a people who speak religious language but whose hearts are distant. This is a warning for us. It is possible to use the vocabulary of the truth, to comment at meetings, to speak of Jehovah, while the innermost thoughts are elsewhere. Prosperity, even apparent spiritual prosperity, can mask a heart that has drifted. The lesson: never measure God's favor by outward success. And when we see injustice, let us follow Jeremiah's example, affirming God's righteousness first, then pouring out our heart honestly. He can handle our questions, and he will answer in his time. Jeremiah 12:5. Jehovah's response to Jeremiah's complaint is not a philosophical explanation. It is a training challenge. The footmen represent the current trials, the men of Anathoth who plotted against him. The horses represent far greater tests coming from kings and princes in Jerusalem. Jehovah is telling his prophet, if these relatively small trials exhaust you, how will you endure what lies ahead? This is a principle of spiritual growth. Every trial we face today is conditioning for tomorrow. The dense thickets along the Jordan were notorious for lions and danger. If Jeremiah could only feel confident in a land of peace, how would he survive real spiritual warfare? The lesson for us is empowering. When we feel tired, overwhelmed by daily pressures, we should not despair. Jehovah is not punishing us, he is training us. Each footman we outrun builds spiritual stamina for the horses yet to come. Instead of asking, why is this happening, we can ask, what is this preparing me for? Our God sees the race ahead, and he loves us enough to condition us now. Do not despise the small trials, they are the gymnasium of the soul. Jeremiah 12:7 and 8. These verses reveal the broken heart of Jehovah in language that is startlingly personal. He speaks of Israel as my house, my inheritance, my dearly beloved one. These are terms of deep affection, the language of a husband for his wife, a father for his child. Yet this beloved one has become like a roaring lion against him. The people who were meant to reflect his love have turned on him with hostility. The phrase, "I have come to hate her," is not petty anger, it is the necessary judicial rejection of a people who have utterly rejected him. But notice the pain embedded in every word. Jehovah does not abandon his house casually, He gives his beloved into enemy hands because she demanded it by her actions. This teaches us something vital about God's discipline. He does not delight in punishment. He takes no pleasure in abandoning what he once cherished. But his righteousness demands it. For us, never take Jehovah's love for granted. The most intimate relationship can be destroyed by persistent rebellion. And yet, as the later verses show, his heart always yearns to restore. The same love that abandons is the love that later says, "I will again have mercy on them." Jeremiah 12:10 and 11. Jehovah's vineyard, his treasured inheritance, has been trampled by shepherds, the very leaders who were supposed to protect it. Instead of feeding the sheep, they destroyed the vineyard. The result was a desolate wasteland. But perhaps the most tragic line is the final one. No man takes it to heart. The nation had become so spiritually numb that the devastation did not move them to reflection. They surveyed the ruins and felt nothing. This is the endpoint of a hardened heart. When calamity strikes and we do not take it to heart, we are in grave danger. Spiritual desolation is not just about external circumstances, it is about internal indifference. The lesson for Christian overseers today is sobering. Shepherds must feed, not trample. They must build up, not tear down. And for all of us, when we see signs of spiritual decline in ourselves or in the congregation, do we take it to heart? Do we mourn, repent, and act? Or have we grown so accustomed to the desolation that we no longer notice? May we never become a wasteland that no one takes to heart. Jeremiah 12:14 and 15. Here the chapter takes a surprising turn toward mercy. Jehovah pronounces judgment not only on Judah, but also on the surrounding nations that mistreated his people. Yet woven into the judgment is a promise of restoration. The word uproot is used repeatedly. Uprooting is violent, disorienting, painful, but notice what follows: "I will again have mercy on them." The discipline of uprooting was not the final word. Jehovah's mercy always follows his judgment for those who are his people. The same hands that uproot are the hands that replant. For us today, this is deeply comforting. We may experience uprooting in our own lives, the loss of a privilege, a change of circumstances, the painful consequences of a mistake. But if we are genuinely his, uprooting is never the end. It is preparation for replanting in a place of greater blessing. Jehovah's mercy is the sunrise after the storm. He disciplines to restore, not to destroy, and that restoration is personal, each of them back to his inheritance and to his land. He cares for the individual, not just the collective. Whatever uprooting we face, we can trust the hands that replant. Hello, dear brothers and sisters. What a privilege to gather once again around Jehovah's table of spiritual instruction. Tonight, we have two powerful accounts that go hand in hand. In Lesson 98, we will travel with Paul and Barnabas as they obeyed Jesus' command to spread the good news to many nations. We will see them preach to governors and to common people, humble themselves when others tried to worship them, and endure being stoned and left for dead, only to rise and continue their ministry. Then, in Lesson 99, we step inside a dark prison cell in Philippi, where Paul and Silas, beaten and bleeding, sang praises to Jehovah at midnight. We will witness an earthquake that shook the prison, and we will see a hardened jailer trembling at the feet of his prisoners, asking the most important question a person can ask: what must I do to get saved? Let's start. Using the map in your Bible, New World Translation, Appendix B13, can you follow Paul's preaching tours? Yes, absolutely. The map found in Appendix B13 of the New World Translation is a wonderful tool that brings Paul's missionary journeys to life. It is titled The Missionary Journeys of the Apostle Paul, and it clearly traces his routes through Asia Minor and into Europe. By following the lines and place names, we can almost walk alongside the apostle as he tirelessly spread the good news. The map shows the 3 major preaching tours. The first journey, recorded in Acts chapters 13 and 14, begins in Syrian Antioch, then moves to Cyprus, up through Perga, and into the cities of Asia Minor, Iconium, Lystra, and Derbe, before returning to Antioch. The second journey, in Acts chapters 15 through 18, takes Paul overland through Asia Minor, then across the Aegean Sea into Europe for the first time, reaching Philippi, Thessalonica, Berea, Athens, and Corinth. The third journey, in Acts chapters 18 through 21, focuses on strengthening the congregations and centers in Ephesus before returning to Jerusalem. Why is this map so valuable? First, it reminds us that the spread of Christianity was not mythical or vague. It was grounded in real geography, real cities, real roads, and real hardships. When we see the distance between Iconium and Lystra, we can better appreciate the physical toll of Paul's travels, often on foot through rough terrain. When we locate the island of Cyprus, we see the strategic wisdom of preaching in major trade and governmental centers like Paphos, where the governor himself became a believer. Next question. What does this lesson teach us about Jehovah? First, Jehovah is the merciful God who reads hearts. To any human observer, Saul was a lost cause, an irredeemable enemy of the truth. The disciples in Damascus and Jerusalem saw a murderer. But Jehovah saw something entirely different. He saw a man who, though acting wickedly, did so in ignorance and with a lack of faith. 1 Timothy 1:13. Jehovah saw Saul's zealous love for God, tragically misdirected though it was. He saw a sincere heart buried under layers of Pharisaic pride and tradition. This teaches us that Jehovah never judges by the outward appearance. He sees potential where we see impossibility. He reads the inner person. When we are tempted to label someone as unreachable or unworthy, we must remember only Jehovah can truly read a heart, and his judgment is always deeper and more merciful than ours. Second, Jehovah takes the initiative in showing undeserved kindness. Saul was not searching for Jesus. He was not doubting his Pharisaic beliefs. He was not on a spiritual journey toward truth. He was marching to Damascus with letters of authorization to arrest more Christians. Yet Jesus appeared to him unbidden, struck him with a blinding light, and spoke to him personally. This is the essence of undeserved kindness. Romans 5:8 says, God recommends his own love to us in that, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Jehovah did not wait for Saul to clean up his life before extending mercy. He reached out, while Saul was still breathing threat. The lesson is deeply reassuring. Jehovah's love is proactive, not reactive. He seeks us before we seek him. Next question. What practical lessons can we learn? First, we learn the importance of obeying Jesus' command without hesitation. The apostles and early disciples took seriously the commission to make disciples of people of all the nations. A few 28:19. They did not wait for convenient circumstances. In 47 CE, the congregation in Antioch sent Paul and Barnabas on a preaching tour, and they went willingly into unfamiliar territory. For us today, this means we should not delay our response to direction from Jehovah's organization. Whether it is a new preaching initiative, an invitation to serve where the need is greater, or simply our regular share in the ministry, prompt obedience brings blessings. The early Christians did not know what awaited them in each city, but they trusted Jehovah and went. We learn that true Christian ministers preach to everyone without partiality. Paul and Barnabas preached to the rich governor Sergius Paulus and to the unnamed poor in the streets of Lystra. They went to synagogues, markets, roads, and homes. They did not judge by outward appearance who might accept the truth. This challenges us to examine our own attitude in the ministry. Do we decide in our minds that a well-dressed person or a poorly dressed person is unlikely to listen? Do we avoid certain neighborhoods or certain types of people? Jehovah showed through Peter and Paul that he is not partial, and neither should we be. Every person we meet is a potential worshiper of Jehovah. We learn the value of humility in service. When Paul and Barnabas healed a lame man in Lystra, the crowd was so astonished that they thought the two were gods in human form. They called Barnabas Zeus and Paul Hermes and wanted to offer sacrifices to them. Paul and Barnabas immediately tore their garments, an expression of extreme distress, and cried out, "We are just men like you." They refused to take even a trace of glory for themselves, directing all honor to the living God. Today, we may have talents, abilities, or privileges of service. When others compliment us, do we quickly deflect the praise to Jehovah, or do we secretly enjoy the recognition? Humility like that of Paul and Barnabas protects our relationship with Jehovah and keeps the congregation united. The next lesson, Lesson 99, a jailer learns the truth. Next question. Why were Paul and Silas thrown into prison? Paul and Silas were thrown into prison as a direct result of casting a demon out of a slave girl in Philippi. This young woman had a spirit of divination, and her owners exploited her condition to make a great deal of money through fortune-telling. For many days, the demon inside her kept shouting, "These men are slaves of the Most High God." Although the words were true, Paul did not want any testimony from a demonic source. Finally, moved by compassion for the exploited girl and righteous indignation at the demon's influence, Paul commanded in the name of Jesus Christ, "Come out of her." Instantly, the demon left her, and she was freed. When her owners saw that their hope of profit had vanished, they were enraged. Their concern was not for truth or religion, it was purely financial. Greed consumed them. So they seized Paul and Silas, dragged them into the marketplace before the civil magistrates, and leveled false charges. They did not mention the demon or the healing. Instead, they stirred up anti-Jewish prejudice, shouting, "These men are disturbing our city. They are Jews, and they are proclaiming customs that are not lawful for us Romans to accept or practice." The accusation was distorted and dishonest. They presented a religious matter as a civil disturbance. Next question. How did the jailer learn the truth? The jailer learned the truth through a remarkable combination of faithful endurance by God's servants, divine intervention, and his own humble response. His conversion was not a gradual process over many months. It happened in a single night, yet it was built on the powerful witness of Paul and Silas under extreme suffering. The jailer witnessed the extraordinary conduct of Paul and Silas in the face of injustice. They had been stripped, severely beaten with rods, and thrown into the innermost prison with their feet fastened in stocks. It was about midnight. Any normal person would have been groaning in pain or crying out against the injustice. But Paul and Silas were praying and praising God with song. The other prisoners were listening. The jailer, who had secured them in that dark, filthy cell, could hear them too. Their joy in the midst of suffering was unnatural, unexplainable in human terms. This was the first seed of truth planted in his heart. The jailer observed that these men were not ordinary prisoners. They had something he did not possess. Jehovah intervened with a miracle. Suddenly, a great earthquake shook the prison to its foundations. All the doors flew open, and the chains and stocks of every prisoner came loose. In the darkness, the jailer awoke, saw the doors open, and assumed the worst. A Roman jailer who allowed prisoners to escape would pay with his own life. He drew his sword to kill himself, preferring a quick death to public disgrace and execution. Next question. What does this lesson teach us about Jehovah? The account of the Philippian jailer is not merely a story of human conversion. It is a brilliant window into the very heart of Jehovah, his sovereignty, and the way he cares for those who serve him and for those who are seeking him. Jehovah is the God who turns injustice into opportunity. Paul and Silas were treated with gross unfairness. They were Roman citizens, yet they were stripped, beaten with rods, and imprisoned without trial. They had done nothing but good, freeing a slave girl from demonic exploitation. Jehovah did not prevent their suffering, but he used it. Within hours, the very prison meant to silence them became the stage for a miraculous deliverance and the conversion of an entire household. This teaches us that when we suffer unjustly for righteousness' sake, Jehovah is not indifferent. He sees, he cares, and he is more than capable of weaving our trials into something beautiful. He can make all his works cooperate together for the good of those who love God. 28. The jailer would never have heard the truth if Paul and Silas had not been thrown into his prison. Jehovah pays attention to the individual. In a pagan Roman colony, in a dark prison cell, there was a hardened jailer who probably gave little thought to the God of the Jews. But Jehovah saw his potential. He orchestrated a series of events precisely calibrated to reach that one man's heart. The earthquake was not random. It struck at exactly the right moment, when Paul and Silas had already established their credibility through prayer and song, and when the jailer was awake and could witness the supernatural events. This shows that Jehovah is not a distant, impersonal force. He is deeply interested in each individual. As Jesus said, "Not one of them goes unnoticed by your Father." If 10:29. If Jehovah could reach the heart of a Roman jailer in the middle of the night, he can reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. Next question. What practical lessons can we learn? The account of Paul and Silas in the Philippian prison is rich with practical wisdom that touches our daily Christian life, our conduct under trial, and our effectiveness in the ministry. Let us draw out several key lessons. We learn that joy is not dependent on circumstances. Paul and Silas had just been stripped, beaten with rods, and thrown into the innermost prison with their feet in stocks. It was midnight. Their wounds were fresh and painful. Yet instead of complaining, they were praying and praising God with song. Their joy was not rooted in comfort. It was rooted in their relationship with Jehovah and the privilege of suffering for Christ. How often do we allow minor inconveniences, a difficult day, or an unkind word to steal our joy? Paul and Silas show us that a Christian can sing even in the darkest hour. When we face trials, do we pray and praise, or do we murmur and complain? The lesson is clear. Joy is a choice rooted in faith, not in favorable conditions. Our faithful conduct under trial can be a powerful witness. The other prisoners were listening to Paul and Silas. They heard the songs, the prayers, the unbroken spirits. When the earthquake opened the doors and loosened the chains, not a single prisoner fled. Why? Perhaps because they respected these men enough to stay. More importantly, the jailer saw their integrity and was moved to ask the most important question a person can ask: what must I do to get saved? Our neighbors, workmates, classmates, and family members observe how we handle pressure. Do they see something different in us? A calm trust, a refusal to retaliate, a joyful spirit under stress. Our conduct may open the door for someone to ask about our faith.